Excellent. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the penultimate coffee morning of 2025 in November. So, my name is Samantha Grant. I'm a director at the IAB, and I'll be your host for the session today. I'm going to dive straight into some housekeeping from the membership team. CPD, I hear you groan, but it's a message from them wholeheartedly around CPD to please do try to complete your log on a weekly basis as part of your regular procedures. With obviously it's reviewed at renewal, and there's been quite a few instances where people are collating madly all of their verified evidence at renewal, which I know it's another procedure to kind of like put on the list, but obviously it's much more efficient if you can do it piecemeal. Obviously the coffee morning counts as a point, so that's great to be logged. But as many of you know, it's now mandatory at the IAB to achieve 30 CPD points annually, and membership will be spot checking. From 2026, we'll be conducting around 5 checks a month. So if you can collate on a regular basis, it's much more beneficial and easier. On the subject of CPD, there was an article in the last issue of IAB Connect about how to acquire CPD and a little bit more help and advice around it. And it was also followed up in the newsletter. So once I finish talking, I'll drop a link to that article in the chat if any of you need any more information. It's also in the latest news section of the website as well. The CPD log, incidentally, for those that don't know, is found in the members area of the website. So you have to be logged on with your name and member number. And if you go to the CPD and compliance information on the left-hand side and click on CPD, that'll take you through to the log and any further information. Also, from an AML perspective, as many of you know, the government has announced the outcome of the consultation since our last session. And although there are no confirmed timelines as yet as to when the FCA will be taking over AML responsibilities from professional bodies, we did want to make you aware that there is now another consultation where they're inviting people to submit questions or opinion. And this consultation is active until 11:59 on the 24th of December. So obviously we wanted to make you aware of the opportunity. So I'll also put the link to that consultation in the chat as well, should any of you wish to submit any question or opinion. Excuse me. So time's ticking on, and I'll move over to our speakers. Our first speaker is a gentleman called Jamie Crossman-Smith from Block AI. And Jamie did a session at Accountex Manchester, and we asked him to come and speak. AI is a hot topic, but effective use and outcomes are all about what you put in. And I know lots of people have had, different encounters with AI. So we've asked Jamie to share some practical techniques for crafting clearer, more effective AI prompts so people can get more accurate, insightful results. So Jamie has over 2 decades of experience across audit and finance, risk and compliance. So he's sharing his knowledge with some context into what you guys do day to day. Our second speaker is a familiar face to the coffee morning, and he's also talking about a very hot topic. It's Lenny Barry from HMRC. So as the April deadline for MTD is looming, he'll be talking about where you should be, using some questions from IAB members, but also paying a particular focus, some insight given by one of our ambassadors. So using somebody's scenario as a little bit of a case study, which we thought may be an interesting way to explain kind of different positioning and where different people are. So Jamie, I'm going to go over to you first of all. Just to let you know, I'll give you a time check at about 15 minutes. But do you need to share your screen or anything? Yeah, I think Mariska will. There you go.
You do. Brilliant. Excellent. So thank you very much for having me today. Can you all see my slide deck? Is that the screen you can see?
Yeah, we can all see that, Jamie. That's great.
Fantastic. All right, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger first of all. Is that better?
Yeah, we can see the slides all on the bottom. I don't know if it goes into. I don't know if it goes into. Oh no!
I seem to have gone into an infinite loop.
Yeah. Should we just mute everybody again and unmute
Yeah,
both
that
of
might
the
be good.
people? There we go. I think Mariska's done that. That's great.
That's probably better, isn't it? There we go.
There we go. That's the
That's
level.
much better. Good. Don't ask the
Good to
tech
go.
guy to do anything to do with text. That's good.
Yeah.
So thanks for the introduction, and do keep me on time because I can waffle on. That's very good, Samantha. I'm Jamie Crossman-Smith. I started off an external audit. I'm sorry, I hated accountancy. I'm really, really sorry, guys. Um, but at the passing exams, if I never have to see another T code, T code again, I'd be delighted. Um, and then I basically had a career. My background wasn't just accountancy. I had a bunch of degrees in data management. So I moved into internal audit, and eventually I ended up managing director of digital data and technology at Grant Thornton. And my role is over the last couple of years has become more and more about AI. And I think there's a lot of spin and a lot of noise out there. And that spin and noise is all around. You need to buy the latest and greatest model, and AGI's coming tomorrow. And my mind, a lot of it's just hype and nonsense, right? Um, all these models that you're hearing about, ChatGPT, Claude, they're all great. They're all going to do better than each other. They're all going to outcompete each other. And if I'm honest, it's too early to put your eggs in one basket. But you're probably all sitting there thinking, well, I don't have that model, so I'm not gonna do as well. Or this person's got ChatGPT and that person's got Claude and they can do better work than me. Truth is, it doesn't matter what you're using, even if you're limited to Copilot, you're going to get some really great results if you do one thing: craft your prompts properly. It's less about the model that you're using, less about the technology that you're using, and it's more about the quality of the prompt, the input that you give to it. So I always start my talk about how to craft a good prompt with an example of a more senior person in a firm giving a more junior person in a firm a steer. So I know when I've got like new graduates coming to help me write internal audit reports, what I'd do is I wouldn't just say, here's all the documentation, here's the risk matrix, crack on and have fun. You wouldn't do that, would you? You'd go, guess what? Sit down, right? Now you've learnt the basics of turning up to work on time as a grad. Right, now let's help you understand what audit is, what we've done for this client, what the client's risks are, etc. You tell them all that context. You tell them why they want the report. You tell them who's probably going to read the report. Yeah. Then you'd give it some clear instructions on what you want the graduate to do. So you'd be like, right, now I've given you the background context. I want you to go and read these documents. I want you to summarize the key information. I want you to pull out that and I want you to put it into a report format. I want you to create the risk summaries. I want you to create the audit issues. I want you to create draft management actions and draft executive summaries, right? So you're being very prescriptive on what you wanted to do. And then finally, you would tell that graduate, wouldn't you? Now, don't waffle on with the report. It can't be any more than 2 or 3 pages. And when you get stuck, give it back to me and have a go. That's what you would do with a human. That's not what people do with AI. What they do with AI is they put in one line and they expect a brilliant outcome, and then they get disappointed and throw their hands up and go, "Oh, it doesn't work." Well, it won't work. You've got to think of AI as something that is akin to human intelligence, right? It doesn't work in the same way that a computer has always historically worked for you, which is quite deterministic. I ask it a question and I get an answer. It works differently. It works in a probabilistic manner. So if I'm going to be really clear and I want AI to do a good job, I've got to sit down and treat it a little bit like a human, which means I'm going to have to put more than one sentence prompts into it. And so the way you deal with AI is exactly the way you deal with a new person at work. You've got to give it the information. So we have come up with to try and make that nice and easy for people. And there's a handful of these different frameworks flying around, right? We've come up with 3 simple guidelines to craft effective prompts. Number 1, provide it the context. Tell it what you want it to do, right? Tell it why you're doing it. Okay. So if I'm creating that report, for example, why am I creating the report? Who's it going to? Who am I? What do the stakeholders want to get out of the report? That's really important because when you tell it what you want it to do with clarity, which is, I want you to read these documents, I want you to summarize them, I want you to do this the same way that you tell that person. There's no way you can tell them everything. There's no way you can tell them everything. So that context fills in the gaps around the clarity, right? Because it allows when the AI thinks, I can't do this, or I'm not sure what this person wants, it goes back to that clarity that you've given it and it works out, it fills in the gaps. So both of those are really important. And sometimes, yeah, we feel stupid saying you are an internal auditor and it's your job to write a report, right? Sometimes we feel really stupid doing that, but it's vital. Then finally, you've also got to give it some constraints. So we've all put in prompts, right? Where we put in one sentence, and then in my case, you get about 5,000 lines of code, which you never asked for. You get all that emoji nonsense all over it. Which, by the way, I've met a client that actually really likes emojis. It's like, I don't know, don't get it. And then you get all those M dashes and Americanized spellings that you don't want, right? Set the constraints, give it the boundaries. But again, that's just like a person, isn't it? So it's like I want an audit report in 3 pages and I want it by Friday. That's what you're going to say to somebody, isn't it? You're not going to say do what you want, whatever. Just write it up. You're not going to do that, are you? So in your prompt, you've got to provide it context, clarity, and constraints. Be clear about the outcomes that you want up front. See what the AI comes up with from this, and then iterate around your prompt. Okay. So actually go back to the original prompt, tweak the original prompt to get what you want. Why is that important? Because that prompt is an investment, it's an asset. And once you've got it right for, say, creating reports or whatever you wanted to do, you can put it in your back pocket and you can save it for another time for the next report you've got. And you can just change the name, the title, whatever it may be, the context a little bit. Okay. Now, as usual with AI, there's lots of online courses right now which you can use that take you a little bit further than those 3 C's in crafting an effective prompt. And those 3 C's are pretty basic, but I guarantee if you do them, you'll get much better outcomes. And if that's the only thing you do today, please do follow the 3 C's. But the experts out there are creating courses using really big words like retrieval, augmented generation, few-shot prompting, chain of thought prompting. If any of you have looked at that, you'll go, I don't even know what any of these mean. But it's common sense, and it boils back down to thinking like you're speaking to a human again. So we've given it the context in our prompt. You've told it why you're asking it to do this thing. Then you give it the clarity. And what techniques can we do to give it clarity? Well, I can use chain of thought prompting. Just like with that graduate, chain of thought prompting means I am going to tell it what I want it to do really precisely. I want you to go out to this website. I want you to pull down the latest football scores. I want you to analyze those latest football scores against last season's football scores. Then, once you've done that, I want you to predict the chance of somebody winning the next match, whatever it may be, right? But you've been very prescriptive around what you want it to do. Because if you're not prescriptive around what you want it to do, it will do it in the way that it thinks is fit. And that might not be the way that you want it done. Okay? So that's chain of thought prompting. The other technique that's out there is called few-shot prompting. And now again, that's another really complicated word name. And what it just means is give it some examples. That's all it means, right? And again, think back to that report example. If I've got a grad, I'm not going to say write an audit report. I'm going to say, here's 3 or 4 previous audit reports that I've written that I really like. Have it digest them and follow that language and tone and style. So giving it some examples and saying, look at these examples and follow those. That's few-shot prompting. The other thing I probably want to flag, if I'm honest, is around verifying outputs. Now, AI can be a little bit weird. So if you're talking to a grad, for example, you're not going to say, and do an independent check of all your work. You might say, read it over before you go. But AI can do more of an independent check because you can tell it to forget what it's done previously and look at what it's done independently. So once you've created something, there is nothing wrong with you saying, can you go back once you've created it and review it and make sure you've hit all the original objectives? Now that's really important because what people don't realize how AI works is basically it all it's doing is predicting the next word in a sentence. But every time it predicts a word, it's going back and it's using that new word as context to reevaluate its answer. So there's a real risk that when it starts creating answers, especially with smaller models, it goes off track a little bit. So actually asking it to go back at the end and say, go back, revisit the question and make sure you've covered everything isn't a bad thing to do. Now, where this graduate model breaks of mine is in one way. Remember, it can only understand who you are from what you give it. And if you use lots of big accounting terms like IFRS 9 or whatever it is, then it's going to realize it's talking to a technical accountant or a technical bookkeeper, right? So don't be afraid to use those domain-specific terms only if you want domain-specific output. So if you want a really technical report that's going to somebody, a really technical paper, use those terms. If you want a really simple paper, then tell it in the constraints, I want a simple paper, but don't use those big words because it'll get confused, okay? Hope that makes sense to everybody. So I'll send you out a link afterwards about what a good prompt looks like. I've written an article on this, and then you can have a try and have a play in your own time. Getting prompts right is really important. Getting prompts right is much more important than picking the latest and greatest model. Because believe it or not, they also have bad days, which people find really odd. But I'm sure we've all found that. We've typed something in ChatGPT one day, got an excellent response, typed it into the model the next day and got a really poor response. And there's a reason for that. It could be the fact that there's lots of people logging on at once. It's amazing how many human analogies you can make. But there are differences between the models. So GPT-5, OpenAI, anybody using ChatGPT will find that that is the workhorse of everybody, right? That does everything reasonably well. But in my view, my humble view, and this is my personal opinion, it does everything reasonably well to maybe to a really good level, but it doesn't do things great. So Google, for example, have the Gemini model. What that's really good at is videos and pictures. Really good at that. And if you wanted to create some funny pictures and funny videos or real work ones, if you wanted to do that, have a look at the Gemini model. Claude is the model that I love, and I go to Claude for everything. Claude is really good at creating copy. If I want something that doesn't look like it's been written by AI, Claude is what I go to naturally. Now, as I've said before, I can say to ChatGPT, make this not look like it's written by AI in the constraints part of my prompt, and it will do that. But Claude is just such a natural writer. I don't know, it just does it naturally. So I like Claude a lot. It also has the biggest context window, so it can take in much more information than the other tools. Perplexity is an odd one. So many people haven't come across Perplexity, but again, Perplexity is the other model that I subscribe to apart from Claude. Perplexity is it auto verifies its outputs because it uses one model to go and get the information and then uses another model to check what it's got is correct. So it's really good at fact retrieval and information. Finally, because of time, I won't go into this, but I'm sure we'll send you the deck. There's one principle on top of everything that you should learn. One is, if I ask it a question, it's going to get it from basically the best way to explain it is the memory within the neural network, right? If it can't go out of the web. So if I want to be cast iron guarantee that it's going to come up with the right information, and I'm happy the factual accurate information, well, not a cast iron guarantee, but a much more likely chance that it's going to come up with the right information, then give it the information. Now that's a technique called retrieval augmented generation. Again, another big word, but it means give it the information. And it's just like me as a kid or at university. If somebody asked me to write an essay I'm probably not going to do a great job of it if it's straight from my memory. If I'm in a library with a load of books and I can go and pull out the right books out of the library to get the information, I'm going to do a much better job. So if you need to have good confidence that the AI isn't hallucinating, giving you a factually incorrect information, then please remember to attach the source of the knowledge that you want it to do, whether it's a policy, whether it's a web page, just give it a link to a web page where the information is, whatever it is. If you attach that and say the answer is in there, it's much less likely you hallucinate. So I thought I'd just finish, as I say, have a look on my website. I'll send you the article afterwards. I'm sure you'll send it around where there's a worked example. But good prompts versus poor prompts. What most people often do is the one on the left-hand side. They'll go write something about marketing. Write me a LinkedIn article about cheese, right? It's too vague and unfocused. There's no context to it, so it can't fill in the gaps. It doesn't really know what you want. A good prompt takes some time, but if you give it the context, the clarity, and the constraints, you are much more likely to get a really good answer out of it. And it's worth the time. That's the most important bit. And I think, Samantha, I'm on time.
You are, exactly. Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That last slide is actually really, really good, I think. And the context of the different AI platforms out there as well. It's good to know what else is out there and what the benefits are. Does anybody have any questions for Jamie? We will link to the deck on the recording of the copy money, so people will be able to review it afterwards, Jamie, as well. But I'm sure the link to the article as well would be great if you are able to share that in the chat. That would be really, really good. Is there any questions? I know quite a few people are using AI to varying different degrees of success. But if anyone does have any questions, just lots of positives coming back, Jamie, in terms of it's really useful. It is really useful. It's a good deck to kind of have on file, that one, I think, especially in terms of prompts. It's really, good advice to kind of think human in your prompts. So that's great. Excellent. Right, we'll move over to Lenny now. Oh, sorry, I've just got one more. Great presentation. I was just somebody mentioning about that in the legal sector, lawyers have had problems because they're citing fake court cases.
I think that's a very valuable point. And remember, when it comes to AI, you're always responsible for the output, but you would be with a more junior member of staff. So it's this psychological thing that people think because it's a computer, it's accurate. It's probably not. But you will much reduce the chance of hallucination by adding the source of the court case or adding the source of the information directly to the prompt. And it may not eliminate the problem, but it's going to drastically reduce it. So you won't get caught out like those barristers or those other professional services firms in the past.
Yeah, good advice. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, Lenny, last minute question came through then, so I just thought I'd bring it to the forefront. Yes, as I say, Lenny's going to talk about MTD is looming, April's looming. The focus of this session is specifically really where you should be now. I know everyone's at different stages, and it's a busy time in general. And I think that there's been a few questions submitted, just generic questions, but I think there was one specific scenario, Lenny, wasn't there? But I'll hand over to you. I'm not going to steal your thunder.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Samantha. Good morning, everyone. Very interesting to hear, Jamie, about AI and the use of technology going forward, which will impact and affect us all. I guess a subset of that is making tax digital, where we are going to be using some new technologies behind the scenes. But fundamentally, I'm very pleased to be back on a coffee morning. Do take your opportunities. Ask questions about making tax digital. We HMRC, we get lots of user research every quarter, and the user research is very positive. But I work in the field. I've worked on the program I'm now in my 8th year in the program for MTD. I've been through VAT. Most of my time is dealing with agents, accountants, bookkeepers, to educate, to inform, to support, to encourage, to harass, to chase up, to push, to get you ready for making tax digital. So our user research says, oh, something like 95% of agents know about MTD, 78% know some of the things they have to do. And I put that in the context of it's a small sample. It's about 700 agents. And it doesn't reflect what I'm hearing on the ground. So I don't believe it's all rosy. I believe we've still got a lot of work to do, and we need to ensure that we're providing as much support, advice, and help as we can to the agent community. We don't underestimate the value of agents, certainly not. Those taxpayers coming into Making Tax Digital next April, 69% of them use an agent. So it is clearly in our interests to ensure that agents are up to speed, they know what they need to do, and they're on their journey to get ready. Now, first things first, if there were any doubters that we're going to go live next April, I'm here to dissuade you of that view, insofar as we are bang up to date, we're right on track, and nothing short of a meteor hitting the data center would stop us going live in April. So on the front end side, on the quarterly updates, digital records, we're absolutely ready to go today. Obviously, at the end of year, that's the bits that are still being built. And as we finish that and release the APIs to the software developers, they will have their products brought up in the next few months to make sure that they're all ready for you. But bear in mind, the end of year for MTD is not required until the 6th of April 2027 at the earliest, but we are pushing to have it ready for April 26 to make sure that the software developers can have it ready for the summer of April 2026. So as Samantha said, I'm here to help you to answer any questions that you have on the day. Some questions came in earlier, which is fantastic, and I'll quite happily go through those, as well as quite a good case study that came in from one of the ambassadors, and it might help share where people are. So he said, trying to get his cursor to move. So how detailed will the information submitted need to be? In particular, will there need to be a full breakdown into expenditure categories? So the requirement, the minimum requirement of a digital record is date, amount, and category, as you would do in self-assessment as it is now. I would suggest that if I was a self-employed electrician, having records that gave me 19th of November, £450, category work done or whatever, isn't really overly helpful to me, because it's not telling me who paid me that money. So when I'm trying to reconcile my invoices, I would want to know that, Samantha Grant paid me that money for rewiring her kitchen or whatever it was that I did. So people are sometimes attracted to minimum because it seems like less work, but the value of the records has to be of value to the trader, to that electrician, so that he knows what is what. So I would suggest date, amount, category, and either the vendor or the payee to make sure that I know who's done it might be more beneficial. For any self-employed traders who are VAT registered, there are clear rules and guidelines required for VAT invoices. I would suggest that all of the VAT details will be in those digital records for MTD for income tax because it's a straight lift. So that's cool. Another question, Quinn. Do clients have to pay the tax quarterly as well as submitting quarterly updates? There is no change to the payment dates under MTD for income tax. So there'll still be a payment on account on the 31st of July if you are using one, and a balancing payment by the 31st of January following the end of the tax year. Now, I have provided Samantha and the IAB team with some FAQs, and I believe that some of them perhaps were in your newsletter last month. So please use these as a resource to supplement your learning about MTD. And I'll say, if you have any questions about MTD that you don't get an answer for in the FAQ, or you can't find it on gov.uk, then please come back to the IAB team. They'll come to us and we will more than happily provide an answer and an explanation for you.
Lenny, just before we go on to the next one, just to keep it into context, there's a couple of questions. There's one here which is to the first scenario, which basically says, as the detail of who paid the invoice is within the accounting software, why would it need to go into the quarterly return?
No, it doesn't have to go into the return. So the digital records are what is beneficial to the trader. The quarterly update is only the summary total of income and expenditure by category. So we effectively get two number, income and expenditure, broken down by rent rates, vehicle expenses, whatever else. We don't get any of the transactional detail relating to the customer. That's not our concern.
Okay, I answered that question. That was from Tracy. Another one, I have a client who runs a pub restaurant. There are two owners who share the profit and submit separate tax returns. The accounts are all on one software. Does their 50% share of turnover count towards the threshold? I know that partnerships are not included initially. However, these are treated separately under one business, not limited.
Okay, so I'm not clear whether the two people are both self-employed as owners, or if they're a partnership as owners, or they're a limited company. So limited companies are not in Making Tax Digital for income tax. And we have announced that we're not going to extend Making Tax Digital to limited companies. And that's due to the fact that there are other progressions happening in relation to limited companies. So, for example, there's a big discussion, there's been a consultation about e-invoicing. Depending which way the government chooses to go, there may be changes to corporation tax and to limited companies in relation to e-invoicing. It will require changes to be made, but we need to know where the direction of travel is in relation to e-invoicing, and then we will put in the appropriate measures for limited companies to follow, but that's probably a couple of years off.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Lenny. These weren't limited, but I think just because of time, what I'll do is I'll take a note of all of these questions and people, and then I'll submit them to you later. I'm just conscious that you've got a case study deck here that it'd be good to get through. And if we have time at the end, we can go to some of those questions, or we can follow up if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Someone sent me this quote from Walters Kluwer. 31% of firms wouldn't begin MTD implementation until April 2026, which may be true, it may not be true. But it does suggest that 69% of agent firms would begin MTD implementation ahead of April 2026. And that's what we would strongly encourage you to do. So in my personal experience, most agent firms that I speak to are not as advanced in their preparation as we would like them to be, and certainly where we would hope them to be. And that means that there will be a concertina effect of readiness work, preparation work to be done after tax season. Now, of course, we fully understand that November, December, January in particular is an incredibly busy month for agents, and focus will be purely on those tax returns. We understand that. I mean, January, we're very busy. We know that you're even more busy than us. But if there are any opportunities between now and when you go into tax return hibernation, if you can think about MTD, early preparation, whatever you can do will be beneficial, because there's a lot to get done. And if you're only able to start that in February, March, April, it's not a lot of time. So here's the case study, the questions that came in, and this is a real life story. It came from a member. This is what they have been doing. So they've told me what they've been doing in terms of their pathway. They're asking for advice. Are they on the right track, or are they completely wrong and should do something else? They'll be pleased to know in advance that they're not wrong. They're doing some really great stuff. They said they can't be on the coffee morning this morning, but they will be listening to the recording with great interest. So the first step they did was identify the clients over 50,000 who were not VAT registered, contact those clients via letter, the letter that they've needed to find the time to compile sufficiently so that the client can fully understand the implication of the new requirements. Brilliant. When you don't hear back from them, there's an inevitability that some clients won't respond to you. We know that when we send our lovely brown envelopes to people, something like 19% don't open the letters. They just put them in a drawer, or they put them in the round filing cabinet marked BIN. That's their choice, but we will keep trying. But they said when they don't reply, phone them up, have a conversation, chivvy them along. Obviously, the client will need time to take it all on board. If they've not been briefed on MTD, if they've not heard about MTD, it will come as a surprise. It will probably come as an unwelcome surprise. I'm not naive. They're not going to like it. But it is a legal requirement. Once they calm down, then it's have that conversation. So my little comments at the end there, I didn't know why they were just looking at the over 50s for who weren't VAT registered. VAT registered self-assessment over 50,000 are probably the easiest clients that you will have, because they're already keeping digital records. Those digital records will more than likely to be able to be used for their MTD for income tax quarterly updates. So that's the most straightforward types of clients that you have. Those who are not VAT registered, or more importantly, those who are not on software, are probably your busiest area of communication, of encouragement, of trying to get them ready and moving in which direction they and you want them to go. Now, if I came into your practice tomorrow and said, I'm going to set up as a self-employed electrician, I'm really good, I'm going to make lots of money, you'll sit me down, tell me what I need to do, you'll tell me what you can do for me, I'll shake your hand, but I'm pretty sure that as I'm walking out the door, you're not going to say, Lenny, on your way home, pop into Ryman's or WH Smith or another stationer's and get some duplicate receipt books. You don't want me on paper records. You want me at least on a spreadsheet, and ideally, you want me on software. So as a greenfield startup, you could explain to me the benefits of software. I would nod along and say, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Show me how I get the software. However, our existing client base are brownfield sites, and they don't like change as a matter of principle. They don't want to do what they've been doing for 40 years. I've always done it this way. I've always paid my tax. And that's probably true, but the world has moved on. So some of you may have been in practice when self-assessment came in 1996. Since 1996, there have been tremendous changes in technology. We heard Jamie just a few minutes ago talking to you about AI. AI didn't exist in 1996. Some software didn't exist in 1996. But if you think back to 96, what you were doing, how you were doing it, you've all adopted software. It has made your practice more efficient, more effective. It has made accountancy and bookkeeping easier and more straightforward to do. And that is the direction of travel for business as a whole. And it's the direction of travel for our business, for the HMRC business, and for the government business. We need to be more effective and more efficient and use the technologies to help us to do that. As the case study says, communicate, communicate, communicate. Clients need to be advised, informed, supported, and encouraged to get with the program. It is going to happen. So there's some fundamental questions that need to be discussed with clients. But own the agenda, own the timescale. Yes, people are people. Everything is always about the people. And I'm sure your clients are lovely people, but psychologically, don't like change. I'll prevaricate and I'll wait and I'll wait and I'll wait until I absolutely have to do it. But that's not helping your practice. You need clients to be on board with where we're going early so that you can get your practice prepared. So do make sure that you drive this forward wherever and whenever you can. So after the client's income tax, MTD for income tax decision is made, create their new limited company if they have chosen that route. System with acquiring business bank accounts if they're having a limited company. Calculate which month their year end falls in, and if that is already a busy month, move them to suit the practice. Yeah. Train them using any software they have chosen. If they have chosen to keep their costs down and do the work themselves. So this comes down to the fundamental decision. So the conversation with the client usually will surround quarterly updates. You can do it yourself. You can do it with the practice, or the practice can do it all for you. So those three models are the most common for MTD for income tax. Obviously, they will all cost different amounts. Some clients say, oh, just do it all. It doesn't matter. Some clients are far more costs sensitive, and they may want to do their digital record keeping themselves. Inevitably, I suggest they might need some help, and it may be that you could give them some advice, set them up if they want to use a spreadsheet. I know practices are giving them a simple spreadsheet. Basically, if you buy something for the business, fill in all the yellow boxes. If you sell something or provide a service on behalf of the business, fill in all the green boxes. And that would be a very good basic starting point. Will they be correct? No, they probably won't be correct. You know that. I know that. But at least they've started on their journey, and our aspiration is that through time, the clients doing their own record keeping will get better. Better in quarter two, better in quarter three, and that's absolutely fine because you start somewhere. People lose receipts, lose invoices. They stress about it and they go, well, where is it? I need to find it. So my advice would be to you, and through you to any clients keeping their digital records themselves, how accurate do we want the digital records to be? Obviously, we want them to be as accurate as possible, but we're realists. Non-bookkeepers, non-accountant professionals doing the digital record keeping from scratch will make mistakes, and that's fine. Do not let perfection get in the way of good. And by that, I mean the first quarterly update is due 7th of August, 2026. If you think something is missing, if you think a week's work is missing, a week's worth of invoices and receipts are missing, if we can get them, great. But if not, submit what you have on the 7th of August. Do not have your client incur a penalty point simply for the search of perfection. Sending what you've got meets the obligation, no penalty point. But more importantly, because the quarterly updates are cumulative, when the invoices materialize the day after the submission, they will simply go into the second quarterly update. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer. We started with quarterly updates and we started with them completely standalone. But the professional bodies in the industry lobbied us to say this will be a challenge because practices will be getting invoices from clients in November that relate back to February to March. They'll have to go back, correct, and resubmit. It's time consuming and therefore costly. So we agreed to make the quarterly updates cumulative. So quarter one is the 6th of April to the 5th of July, due by the 7th of August. Quarter two is actually for 6 months. It's from the 6th of April to the 5th of October, due by the 7th of November. So everything that you've missed can get swept up, and ideally everything will be in by the final quarterly update on the 7th of May. But as I say, we have to be realistic. Tax returns today are not perfect. Quarterly updates will not be perfect, but as long as it's getting better, then that's great. Now, the member suggested that some clients will choose to become a limited company. If there are good business reasons to do that, that's absolutely fine. But some people say to me, I'm going to go limited or I'm going into a partnership to avoid MTD. Now, if that is the highest motivator, I would challenge that. So you are tax professionals, you know far better than I, but if I'm a self-employed electrician, I've £80,000 gross, sole trader, or I'm an £80,000 gross limited company, which pays more tax? So if you wanted to become a limited company, absolutely fine. We're still going to get our share of the tax. A limited company, generally at that level, we would get more, which we're not going to say no to. But if it's purely to avoid MTD, I think that would be false economy. Business bank accounts are required for limited companies, but they're not required for sole traders. However, we would suggest that getting clients, sole trader clients, to have 2 personal bank accounts may be beneficial. Using one personal bank account for their personal expenses, their shopping, their whatever, and using one account purely for their business activities makes bank reconciliation, bank feeds a lot easier for you and a lot easier for the client as well. I fully accept that there'll be occasions where they use the wrong bank card. That happens, but that's a lot less to go through compared to here's the shopping from Asda, here's the shopping from Amazon, and whatever else.
Lenny, just to give you a time check, we've got 6 minutes of the session left, so I don't know if you wanted to
Crack on.
move forward. Yeah, just because I'm conscious you might not get to the end of this, so we've only got 6 minutes left.
So someone was asking about accounting periods. They're going to shift accounting periods. That's absolutely fine. They're also talking about VAT staggers. So you can choose whichever VAT stagger you want to be on. You can apply to move to a VAT stagger. So stagger 1 will align with MTD for income tax. Interestingly, the professional bodies lobbied us quite hard to change the filing date from the 5th of the month to the 7th of month so that the VAT stagger would match with the MTD quarterly update. The belief was that if you've got a VAT registered sole trader, it is as quick to do both of them at the same time rather than doing them separately. And there was mention of training them on software. Software developers, they are particularly keen that people buy their products. So it's a quid pro quo. I'm buying your product. Help my clients, provide training for my clients. You're not in it on your own. Look at the existing clients that are already in the cycle of MTD quarterly updates, and those that are not. So the suggestion there would be, if you're not in an MTD quarter and you're VAT registered, possibly move them out of that stagger 1 into stagger 2 and 3 so that you've got less VAT returns to do when there's an MTD quarterly update to be done. Innovative, absolutely fine. If it suits the business, suits the client, definitely would suit the practice, absolutely fine. Again, just being aware of the minimal disruption that might happen to the client and the client business in relation to they might have to have a 2-month quarter for VAT or a 4-month quarter for VAT as they transition. Will that have any impact on their cash flow, any impact on their record keeping? Record keeping, I don't think so. Cash flow, potentially. But if the client's okay with it, then if that's a best all-round solution, by all means, carry on. Sole trader VAT registered quarters. Again, talk there was moving them to the appropriate stagger so it's all done at the same time. Absolutely fine. As I say, we were asked to move the quarterly updates to the 7th specifically to align with VAT filing. In principle, you can't argue that if the digital records are the same, it's a relatively quick transition to do the VAT return and then do the quarterly update. But again, depending how many clients you have at that time, what's your workflow, what's your process going to be, you need to make an informed decision with the client. Is it okay to move them? For the practice, contact your software provider for the best deals, work out pricing, train the staff, ensure work is evenly distributed between the VAT returns, the quarterly update, January work, and non-quarterly year-end work with corporation tax. Make your software choice as early as you can. If you haven't made a decision by now, what software are you using for self-assessment filing? Have they got an MTD for income tax product? Speak to them. When is it going to be ready? When have you got it for me? What support are you going to give me? Pricing structure is key. Absolutely key. Clients are going to ask you how much, why. That's a bit much. I can't afford that. All the stuff they will normally do. If you can bring a client or clients into testing, so the 25-26 tax year is the last year of testing. If you come into testing, we would encourage every practice to bring 3 clients, someone on software, someone not on software. And if you have landlords, farmers, dentists, or whatever, what is representative of your client base? Bring one of each of those in. You'll see how they behave, you see how they perform, how they're going to do things. If they are not on software and they promise to bring you in information every quarter, well, first of all, tell them it's every month, because if they fall down, we can catch up and we've already got 2 months. We've got something we can submit. But in testing, you can see exactly how much extra work is involved. And from that, you can have a pricing strategy based on your factual information, not what I've told you, not what anyone else has told you. It's relative to your client base. Training for all, staff and clients, is essential. If you can plan that early, that would be brilliant. So getting ready. We've seen the segmentation exercise. How many clients do you have? Over 50,000. You can also look at over 30, over 20, because they'll be coming in as well. How many? When are they coming in? Communicate early and communicate again. Letters, emails, phone them, conversations when they're coming in with material for the tax return, when they're signing the tax return. Get into them. It's coming. We have to do this. We need to plan. We need to prepare. Preparation. Have a plan. Work it through. Make sure that it works for your practice. And then prepare to implement it. Consider the resources you might require, the costs, the processes, the workflows, and the workloads that you may have as a result of the new requirements. Have capacity. Have contingency. Can you afford, for example, to have a full-time bookkeeper? What are they going to do in the non-MTD months? Do you have to subcontract out? Do you have a means of sharing bookkeepers with others? Have resilience. You will get through this. It will work, and we will help you. What are you going to do? What will you do, and what will you not do? So some accountants say to me, I've trained for years to be an accountant. I didn't train to be a bookkeeper. I'm not going to do the quarterly updates. That's absolutely fine. All we say is tell your clients early that you're not going to do that. Tell them what the offering is going to be. I'll still do your tax returns as now, but I'm not doing the digital records or the quarterly updates. If you can help them find a bookkeeper, that would be brilliant. If you can help them set it up to do for themselves, absolutely brilliant. And that's why at the bottom of there it says strategic alliances. If you can make alliances with bookkeepers in your town, then it's a win-win. As an accountant, you will get far better digital records. You'll get far better information in the quarterly updates, and you'll get a set of accounts up to trial balance. It's happy days for the accountant. The hard work, I'll be honest, the hard work is in the digital records. That's where the battle is going to be fought. Get the digital records done, do them regularly, and be able to submit your quarterly updates. You'll be in a better position. And I think that was me.
Yeah, just 2 minutes over, Lenny. I couldn't stop you in full flow there because I knew you were near the end, so it was great. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I'm conscious we are 2 minutes over, everybody. Thank you all for your time. I hope that you found that useful. As I said, when talking with Lenny, we felt that the kind of case study kind of, if you like, submitted, the selection of questions was kind of like a case study, so we used that. There are a lot of questions, Lenny, so I will collate those and send them to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then what I'll probably do, everybody, is in the next newsletter, I will probably do some kind of link to our own set of FAQs along with a lot of the content that Lenny has given me as well, which I'm going to drip feed you all. So, but do keep any questions coming. As Lenny says, we do communicate on a regular basis. So I'm sure this won't be the last time you'll be seeing Lenny before April.
Yeah, and again, I make it. I'm more than happy to come back. So I account manage IAB. I'm happy to come to coffee mornings. I know there's not a formal branch regional structure, but if some members in, I don't know, pick a region, I live in the Northwest, they wanted to have a meeting with us, we'll more than happily come on to a meeting with you and explain and answer to the questions. It's vital for us that you understand what's coming and what you need to do and how you need to do it. And I'll be honest, some of the we do daily webinars for accountants and for businesses about making tax digital, and there's a lot of basic questions still getting asked. That's absolutely fine. Everyone has to learn, and it starts somewhere. If we can help you, we will do our utmost to do that for you.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Lenny. Thank you, Jamie, if you're still on the call as well. Really good presentations today. I hope everyone enjoyed them. And we'll see you next month for December coffee morning. Thank you, everybody.